presentation. And then I'm happy to answer any questions at the end. So I'll share my screen. Can everyone see that? Somebody give me a, yeah, okay. All right. So I'm going to focus on the City of Fredericton's recycling guidelines, what you can recycle and what you can't, and how you go about recycling in the city. So to recycle, the first thing in Fredericton, we encourage people to have a gray box and a blue box. And I'll tell you in a minute what goes in each of those. You can buy those at Walmart or any sort of hardware store. So a Kent, a Home Depot. If you really can't get a gray box or a blue box, you can use clear plastic bags. Like the big ones, the size of a garbage bag, but clear. But we do prefer that, that you put it in one of these boxes if you can. So different things go in the two different bins. In the blue bin, you can put in plastics. So any sort of food packaging, any sort of packaging that has a symbol on it that you can see on the screen there with the arrows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Any of those can go in your blue bin. You can put milk cartons in there or milk jugs. You can put metal food cans. So if you're buying canned beans or something, the can can go in. You don't have to worry about taking the labels off or anything like that. Plastic bottles can go in, and so can grocery bags. So with plastic bottles and drink cans, you can return those to a different recycling place and get 5 cents back for each of those. Or if you don't want the 5 cents back or you can't get to a depot, you can just put them in your bin. There are a few things that we don't take in the bin. We don't take glass. We don't have a place to recycle glass here. We don't take foam cups and plates or takeout containers. So anything you would get your takeout food in, the styrofoam, we don't take any of that. It gets dirty really easily and the grease kind of gets in it and it's just really hard to recycle. We don't take plastic cutlery. So same thing, forks and knives that you would get from a restaurant and then throw away. Those cannot be recycled. Cling wrap, so your saran wrap that you would put over your leftover food or to wrap up a sandwich to go to work. We don't take anything like that. And same with tin foil, the metal looking stuff that you would put over your food. We don't take that. So anything that's plastic but doesn't have one of those symbols on it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, with the arrows around it, we can't take that. So something like a potato chip bag, we can't take that. It doesn't have a symbol on it. But any packaging that does, we will take. The gray bin. The gray bin is a little bit more simple. So we take newspapers, any sort of box board, cardboard, office paper, old magazines, anything like that we can take. The only thing we don't take in those bins is anything that's, anything that's gotten dirty. If for whatever reason it has food or grease or a lot of dirt on it, we won't take that. So how do you get rid of your recycling? So recycling is picked up from the end of your driveway if you live in a house. So just a single family house. And it's picked up from the curb at an apartment building with less than 4 units, so with less than 4 separate apartments in it. So a lot of the time this would be something like one of the big old houses downtown that's been separated into apartments. we do collect there. We do not collect from larger apartment buildings. So that's not a service that we offer. But if you live in a house with just your family, or in a small apartment building, you can put your recyclables at the end of the driveway. So we have a schedule, and it's on our city website, and it's on the Fredericton Region Solid Waste website. Fredericton Region Solid Waste is the city's partner, and they actually work with all the recycling materials. So we're just responsible as the city for making sure it gets collected from houses, and they take care of everything else. So they have a schedule there and a map, so you can find your address, where you live, and then find out which day your recycling is. So this is what it looks like. It looks a little bit complicated on here, but you can search your address. So I live on the north side in that little tiny purple area. So that means that my recycling gets picked up on Wednesdays. So also, it gets picked up on the same day as garbage. So if your garbage day is Wednesday, your recycling day is going to be Wednesday. You should have it outdoors by 7:30 in the morning. They do come as early as that. That's when the collection begins, and it should be collected by 5 p.m. at the latest, by supper time. So one thing to keep in mind is that one week the blue bin is picked up, the next week the gray bin is picked up, and then the next week we go back to blue. So we don't collect paper and plastic the same week. We do them separately. So that's a good reason to access the schedule, or just look down your street, and if your neighbors have their blue bin out, put your blue bin out, and the next week will be gray. So I'll show you, this is what the schedule looks like. So right now we are in the week of April 8th, and on the schedule it's blue. So let's say again, your recycling day is Thursday, which is the 9th. That's today. Then you know that you're putting your blue bin out that day. Like I said, recycling is not picked up at apartment buildings, but you do have the ability to take it to a depot. So we have 3 of those around the city. I'll show you a picture in a minute. One is at the Capital Winter Club on Rookwood Avenue. It's in a parking lot there that's very close to the multicultural building. It's kind of in behind that. Willie O'Ree Place, so that is on the north side on Cliff Street. It's the hockey arena. And then there's another location on the north side, which is the Brookside Mall parking lot. So that's the place on the north side where Sobeys is. The exact same materials can be recycled there. So anything that I already talked about that can be recycled at your house or cannot be recycled at your house, if you have driveway pickup, can be recycled at the depot. The difference is just that you have to bring it there, right? So this is what they look like. They're big blue, hard to miss containers, and it will show you where the plastic goes and where the paper goes. I think I have a question here. You can go ahead, Mohammed. Someone have a question? I see a hand up. Okay. So I'll just tell you a little bit about how it works. So the City of Fredericton hires a company to basically come to your driveway and collect the recyclables every week. And they also recycle from the depots. So we hire those people, that company that has the trucks. The trucks come to your house, and so it's your responsibility to put your recycling out. It's not mandatory. You don't have to do it. We just ask that people do. We ask that people make that choice for the environment. And then once it leaves your house, it gets taken to Fredericton Region Solid Waste, and they take in all the recycling. They sort it, they bale it up, and they ship it out to other locations to be recycled. So there's other things that can be recycled that we don't pick up from your house. So batteries, so it's actually somewhat dangerous to put batteries in the garbage. We ask that people collect them until they can dispose of them properly. So a lot of stores that you go into, you know, Staples, I think even Walmart, some of the hardware stores, they have a little bin when you walk in the door for batteries. So you can drop your batteries off there so that you're not putting them into your garbage or recycling, because they do have dangerous material inside them. Tires are the same thing. There's a place you can go to recycle tires. All this information is available on the city's website and on Fredericton Region Solid Waste. The other thing that we don't pick up, that we ask you don't put in the garbage or recycling, is e-waste. So old phones, old laptops, again, they can be recycled. They have some dangerous materials in them. So we ask that you bring them to a specific place. And again, that information is on our website. And then there's household hazardous waste. So things that are very bad for the environment and dangerous for animals, paints and oils. So we also ask that people bring those to Fredericton Region Solid Waste rather than putting them in the garbage. Composting, we get a lot of questions about composting. So we do not pick up composting at houses. We do collect yard waste in the spring and fall. So if you live in a house and you have leaves on your yard or you have some branches, you can, you know, get those collected and put them in a paper bag, a big paper bag that you can get from Walmart or the hardware store, and we will come collect those. We always have information on our website about when those collections will happen and on our social media, so our Facebook and Twitter. As far as composting things like food waste, we encourage people to compost at home. If you have a backyard, you can compost in your backyard. You can compost in an apartment with something called a worm composter, where worms will decompose your food scraps. We have information about that on our website as well, but we do not come and collect it. So if you have questions, there's 2 numbers you can call. So the recycling hotline, that is run by Fredericton Region Solid Waste. They would have the best and most up-to-date information on what can be recycled and your recycling schedule. So you can call them. I've left the phone number there. You can also call the city, Service Fredericton. So that's a general phone number where you can ask any questions about services from the city. So you can certainly ask about recycling, and they should have an answer. Or you can visit the city's website, fredericton.ca, or Fredericton Region Solid Waste website, frswc.ca. So that's everything I had for the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
So I'm going to get mine up here. As I said earlier, I'm a little. My name is Dan Harvey, and I'm the manager of the Pollution Control Division for the City of Fredericton. So I've been here about 16 years now, and I've worked in the wastewater industry for about 25 years, maybe 26 years. Previously, I worked in another municipality in the province. So today, and maybe before we get to the presentation, just a little comment about the wastewater system versus the recycling system. And Brittany had some nice slides showing the recycling containers and things like that. In the wastewater business, you don't see too much of our stuff. It's all underground and out of sight. So probably won't see too much of that kind of infrastructure around. So just about overview of who we are, or sorry, overview of today's presentation, who we are, our key infrastructure, what we're designed and able to treat, what we cannot treat, and prepare for climate change, something that's everybody's been talking about over the last few years. So we're just one small division of a larger of the engineering operations division. So, and that's roadway operations, building services, fleet, engineering, water and sewer. So even though we work in the sewer business, water and sewer division, they look after the underground sewer mains that deliver the product to us. Parks and trees, transit, and then pollution control. So I believe we're one of the bigger divisions in the city, but maybe not as visible as police and fire and those folks. So everybody has a mission statement, and our mission statement is to provide wastewater collection and treatment to provide public safety, protects the environment, and is sustainable for current and future generations. So, so how we do that is we have to meet the effluent regulatory requirements identified by the federal and provincial regulators. We collect that information and we give that to them on a regular basis, so they know exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it. The maintenance of the treatment facilities and equipment. We work in a pretty harsh environment, and there's a significant time and effort required just to make sure the equipment operates as expected. And we do operate 24/7 with employees on site every day. And then we have systems in place for emergencies that happen outside of normal staff hours. And number three, continuously upgrading equipment. So as new processes come along, new equipment comes along, we upgrade that on a regular basis. And as the population grows in Fredericton, we have to make changes to accommodate for that. So it's an ongoing process. So one of the great things here for the city of Fredericton is we treat 100% of the wastewater that's generated in the city. We have two separate systems. One is it's called the storm system, and whatever water on the street goes into the catch basins, that doesn't come to us. That goes to the river because it doesn't have to be treated. But we take all the wastewater at one or two facilities. One here at the Barker Street facility, which is on the north side, and we take about 90% of the flow here. And then the Garden Creek Lagoon, which is a smaller facility, but it's on the south side, and it's a biological. I guess both of them are biological treatment, and it takes about 10% of the total flow that's generated. So we're just to give folks an appreciation for the size, how much water comes here. So on a daily basis, it's equal to about 10 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So a fair volume on a regular basis. And then at times like this time of the year, where we have spring melt off and some of our systems are underwater, we see on a daily basis about 75,000 cubic meters a day, and that's about 30 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So kind of puts it in perspective how much water that we actually see coming through here on a daily basis. We have a pretty varied and wide infrastructure. So the city of Fredericton is pretty hilly. There's some low spots, there's some high spots, and somehow we have to move that water around. And we do that with facilities called lift stations. So that pumps it from the high spots to the low spots, so then gravity can take place. Because our treatment plant is on the north side, we actually move the water, we pump it under the St. John River over to the treatment plant on the north side. We have a fair amount of storms, and when that happens, we lose power occasionally. So we have some facilities that have standby power, so they lose power and it automatically comes back on with the generators. And in other facilities, we have portable generators that we can take on site to keep those going. And our whole goal is to prevent any bypassing to the environment, trying to protect the quality of the river. And the final comment was controls and instrumentation. So a fair amount of our equipment is all the information comes back to our computers here, and we know when they're running, when they're off, when they're on, and if there's some emergency that we have to attend to. Just a couple of pictures of a couple of our lift stations. The one on the right, just small tanks in the grounds, and that's one of our smaller stations. And then the one on the left does the same job, but it's quite a bit large. That particular brick building would look after most of the flows from the Nashwaaksis area on the north side. Once again, just to give you a feel for how much infrastructure is out there, this graph shows how many kilometers of water and sanitary main are actually in the ground. So we're not talking about potable water today, but on this graph you can see there's 460 kilometers of water main and 415 kilometers of sewer main, and that was as of over a year ago. So there's probably another couple hundred meters of new infrastructure in the ground since that time. So now I guess we'll get to the meat of the presentation. And in our business, or actually in any wastewater treatment industry, there's only certain things that we're designed to treat. And it comes right down to the only thing that we can realistically treat is things that comes from our body. So in our business, we actually call them suspended solids, so things that are floating in the water, and we can see them and they can be removed. Biodegradable organics, and that's kind of it's within the water. It's contamination, but we have to remove that. Pathogens and nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. And like I said from my original comment, all this stuff comes from our body, and that's what we're really designed to treat. So the challenge that we have is folks sometimes think that it's okay to put this stuff in your toilet or down the sewer, and it just goes away. However, we're not designed to treat some things that we see here on a regular basis. So, for example, although some of the packaging on the wipes, baby wipes, cleaning supplies, or Swiffers, they say that they're flushable. They may be flushable, but they're not treatable. So when they get into the sewer system, we have to physically remove those from the waste stream. So if it gets out into the main sewer and past where your own house is and gets here, then we have to remove that from the wastewater and take it to the landfill. So ideally, that material would go into your garbage to begin with and go to the landfill then. Grease and oil. So when you're cooking, if you have residual oil left over in your cooking equipment, your pots and pans, the best thing to do is to either put it in a container and put it in the garbage, or use some paper products to clean it up. Once again, if it goes down into the sewer, it's your own home. It could cause a blockage in your own line, your own sewer line. And if it gets here to our facilities, we have to physically remove it from the waste stream. Same thing for plastics. some plastics can be flushed, but the next item is chemicals like paint products, or products that use to clean your brushes, gas or motor oil. So gas and motor oil, if they get into the sewer systems, they can be explode. It could cause an explosion and also cause some damage. Chemicals themselves, if they get into the water, we can't treat them. They more or less come in the front of the treatment facility and go right to the river. We can't treat those. So we ask folks to resist putting that kind of material down in the sewer. The last two items, food scraps. Once again, when you're cleaning your plates off at mealtime, that kind of material should go to your garbage, not down the your sink. Could cause two problems. Number one, could cause problems in your own plumbing, and when it gets here, can't say it enough. We have to remove it. The last item is needles, and some folks they do put them down the sewer and or down their toilets, and it's quite a safety concern for our folks, because if there is a potential blockage, then we have to remove it, and we can't see the needles, and we could get poked with the needles. Next picture, just showing the kind of equipment that we have. So this building and equipment was just put online or just commissioned this year. I think it cost the city about $2.5 million, and it's just designed to take those kind of materials out of the waste stream. The food particles, the plastics, the knives, forks, whatever goes down in baby wipes, and we have to remove that, and it still goes to the landfill eventually. And this is as nasty as this looks. The wipes and material, if it does get into our systems and causes us some blockages, then we have to physically shut the equipment off. Have to put our hands inside of it and actually remove it. So I mentioned a few minutes ago about needles, and if there was a needle within that material, then it would could potentially harm one of our staff. So we encourage folks to dispose of needles properly, and not down the sewers or down through the toilets. So at the end of the day, we're actually in the recycling business. We don't talk about it a whole bunch, but we are. So I mentioned earlier that we remove solids from the waste stream, and at the end of our treatment process, those solids they're actually called biosolids. We remove those from the wastewater, and we deliver that to a local facility, and they mix that with other material to make topsoil and compost. So we collect about 5,500 tons per year, and the slide says 25% moisture content. What that means is that's how dry it is. So if you were able to say, for example, squeeze it in your hand, no water would come from that. So it's a fairly dry material. And to put it in perspective of how much 5,500 tons is, the truck that's on the scale, or the truck that you see there, we collect about 3 truckloads a day, not about 9 a week, and that's removed offsite and I said, take it to a local facility to make compost. So just a bit of a report card of how we're doing. So the green line it shows the government standard for what we're allowed to discharge to the St. John River. And the blue line, as you can see, in 2006, we were in some difficulties. We weren't in compliance, but since 2006, we've had a number of upgrades. We've made some changes, and the facility is operating very well, and we're very comfortably under the provincial and federal regulations. So the last topic is climate change. So this year, we may not see a real high water issue here in town. Last week there was it got close to being flood stage. But these two pictures just show how close it gets to our buildings. Both of those buildings, the water, this was from 2018. The water just got right to the doors and not inside. So normally the water at these locations would have been about 8 meters lower than where it is there. So it was a fair amount of water that was coming down the river. And even though we have some facilities that are affected by water, or the buildings are close to being flooded, we still have to maintain them. And our guys here can't see it in this picture, but that brick building from the previous slide is in the background, and they're just rolling out to do a daily check to see how the facility is operating, and everything is fine. So what do we? So the high water affects a lot of our stations. The roads are covered, not just for our facilities, but around town. Even though they are surrounded by water, they have to continuously operate. So we keep the wastewater moving from people's homes so folks don't get flooded. Water enters some of the buildings anyway, and if they come close to our electrical systems, then electricity and water, they're not friends, and we have to shut the power off to the stations if the water gets close. So what are we doing to protect ourselves in the future? We're moving or raising stations. So anytime we build a new one, we'll make sure that it's high enough out of the water or away from any potential flooding areas. We'll modify existing buildings to keep the water from coming in. We do this every year, but we ensure that all the systems are working as designed. And so when the high water does come, we can look after it. And most sites are equipped with water sensors, so if water does get in through the system, we know what's going on there. So just if you want any further information on the water sewer system, there's the web address to get onto the City of Fredericton site. You can contact Service Fredericton at 460-2020. And the final thought is from an industry perspective, we would ask folks to just be aware of the potential damage that products like plastics and wipes, that the damage that they can do to the infrastructure. And eventually they have to go to the landfill site anyway. And we would ask that folks put those in their garbage before they put them into the sewer. And it would be a great help for us, and we would appreciate it. So I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to the group today. And if there's any questions, certainly answer them. Thank you.